continue what Peter has discussed previously, but from a little bit of different aspects, because I give you now a real example of what CAPRI is capable of doing. And the title of my presentation is How would an EU-wide withdrawal of the coupled dairy payment influence farmers and policymakers' vision of CAP? I gave this cumulative the title because I wanted to emphasize that two things. First of all, this will be about what already Peter has introduced you about the VCS, or as I will call this in this lecture, the coupled dairy payment. And on the other hand, since this is a policy instrument, this CAPRI model, I want to study how farmers and policymakers could use the results. And the reason why we have chosen the withdrawal of dairy payment support is just to simulate a hypothetical scenario, because dairy farming has lots of policy implications. One is that it has animal welfare issues. It raises also environmental concerns. It has to do also with human habits, like the diet patterns that are prevalent, and dairy farming has lots to do with the world market prices. So in this presentation, first of all, I will give you a short introduction to the coupled income support, and especially for the dairy farmers. As I said, this will be a hypothetical scenario, so there is absolutely no intention to discard this type of support from the CAP, at least as far as I know. As a technical note, this exercise will be a simulation for 2030. As Peter has pointed out, we are working in a 5 years periods, and that's the closest date that we could use for our analysis. And in contrast to Peter's presentation, I will show you the results, what happens if we withdraw the support for all member states, not just for Hungary, but for all member states. So in a sense, it will complement his data. And some aspects I will show what are really interesting in CAPRI, how the social impact, the economic and trade implications will evolve after implementing such policy. And I won't show, but CAPRI is also capable to do some sort of environmental assessment. So let's go first on this coupled income support, or VCS, as Peter has called it. Its aim is to support agricultural producers who have special economic, social, or environmental reasons to be entitled for such an income support. The typical national ceiling is 13 plus 2%, which is relatively high. And as I said, there is a double nomenclature ongoing. So what are these coupled income supports? When the European Union was established and the Common Agricultural Policy was implemented, the focus was on the producers to give them money to be able to produce. But unfortunately, over time, it turned out that overproduction will be a result of this of these measures. So that's why they moved further on, and they put more emphasis on the products. So they moved from producers to products. No, in the other way, they moved from the products to the producers, to support the producers. And that was the time when the coupled payments came into the fashion. The next big step was in 2003 when the Fischler reform has taken place. They said that they give money for the farmers, but not in not in a close association with the produced products. And that was the time when decoupled payments started to arise. But there was an internal discussion between the new and the old member states, and that's why decoupled payments and the balance of coupled and decoupled payments was not established in the long period of time. So in 2013, coupled payments returned again. So our question in this exercise: what happens if we move forward and we delete these coupled payments, this type of coupled payment, but just for the dairy sector? This slide shows you how the CIS, or coupled income support for dairy farmers, is within the European Union. As you see in this diagram, it has a large share from the overall budget, around 22%, just for the milk and the milk products. In comparison, the beef and the veal sector has around 40% of contribution. And this table on the right side shows you how CIS for the different member states in 2022 looks like. What I like to point out in this table are two things. First of all, there are a group of countries like Hungary and Romania and Finland where the per cow payment of CIS is pretty high, but other countries like France, Italy, and Poland follow a different kind of strategy. They have a much larger envelope, but a smaller per capita support for the cows. The different strategy will be discernible also in my data later on. But first, I would like to show you how, just some remarks, because Peter has discussed this in depth already. This slide, I would like to show you how the CAP is implemented in my scenario in the CAPRI. So first pillar payments are well represented in my CAPRI exercise. On the other hand, the national CAP payments or the second pillar payments were not considered in my case. And as Peter has already told you, that there is an ongoing improvement of implementing the new CAP strategic plans, but in my exercise, these are not yet ready for the presentation. So now I turn on to the real results of the CAPRI results. When I looked first at the data after running the scenario, one thing struck me: how different productivity of how different the income will be between the different member states. Income is probably the foremost important thing when we have to design a new policy, or we have to think about how it will affect the farmers' productivity. And in this respect, I looked into the details, and with the red bar graphs, I show you those farmers that have high yield cows, and those farmers with the blue color which have low yield cows. You see a striking difference between the two groups, because most probably if we implement such a measure that we delete all the coupled income support from those countries where it still is existing, then most probably the low yield cow farmers will be affected. I just would like to point out, but so the two countries which will be really affected are Romania and Bulgaria, but also Hungary. And Malta has a pretty high level of decrease, but I have to point out that it has around just 6,000 cows. If we look more into the details, what causes this reduction, especially in the low yield cows, I have taken this slide as an example. Again, I have listed all the countries in the same order as before, and I plot with the dark orange the decrease in the Earth size, and you see that it pretty much correlates with how the CIS support is withdrawn, except for Estonia and Slovenia. But in those countries where you reduced CIS, you will have to expect a decrease in the Earth size. But overall, if you look at the European Union data, which is this first bar, then we will see just a moderate decrease in the Earth size, even though the support will be withdrawn. And there is also a kind of division between the Eastern and Western member states. The majority of the member states that will be affected by such a policy are Eastern member states, except Italy and Finland. And this has something probably to do with the so-called dairy belt, which is a kind of geographic conception. This represents those countries where the climatic conditions are the best for the dairy cow industry. And now I move on, because if you design a policy ex ante, so in front of when it takes place, you have to think about how farmers will be affected. Now I just take these 7 examples just to have, just to not to clutter my plot with all this kind of data. I have taken the major milk producing nations, and also I put Hungary into it. And from these countries, you will see that even though the revenues will climb somewhat, taking away the measure, the CIS support, but in Romania and Hungary, the income will decrease around 5 or 15%, something like this. But I have to point out, this is for the low yield cows. If you look at the high yield cows and high yield farmers, the pattern of decrease is similar to the previous one, but now the decrease in income, even though it will decrease the income, taking away the support, but it will be on the order of 2% just. Now I move on to the trade implication of taking away this CIS support, because CAPRI is able to simulate this globally, and I think it's important to look how different type of products, or which has some connections with the dairy industry, will be affected by this measure. First of all, I have taken this slide that shows the overall European Union's effect for such a policy. Here are listed dairy products, butter, milk powder, etc. But what you notice probably at the first sight is that net trade will be decreased for almost all products. That is because if we take away a support, then the third countries will jump in. Also, the world export share of the European Union will decrease. But if we disaggregate these results into EU West, so the EU 14, EU East to EU 13 countries, and if we compare this to non-European countries, everything on the same scale, we could see better the processes behind this. First of all, the EU West net trade will pick up for certain products like fresh milk products or cream. Most likely they will export to the Eastern member states these products. On the other hand, the EU East will be affected the most by this measure. Their export share will decrease and their import share will increase. So, and decreased production means that they have to rebalance this equation. And for all products, especially for milk powder that can be transported far away, the non-European production will increase, non-European trade will increase. Now I move on to the human aspects of implementing such a policy, because until now I have shown you how farmers will be affected by these measures, but now I just broaden the picture and look at how the society will be affected by these measures. And you see that the human consumption in the same row of member states as I have shown you before will be affected, even though the numbers are not striking, but still the consumption of dairy products will decrease, especially in the eastern member states. What will cause this decrease in consumption? For the consumers, price is the first determinant, and CAPRI is well versed to address this question as well. So I show you some of the products again for the selected countries for the certain milk products, and you see that especially the butter, which will experience a higher increase of price compared to the other ones, and in the eastern member states again. I think this will be my last result slide, because thinking about policy instruments, even though if it's a withdrawal, so this is not a putting new instrument, but taking away a former instrument, you have to think about what does this cost for the society. So from the taxpayers' point of view, what we will see that it will be decreased, especially in the southeastern member states and in Latvia. But for example, in Germany or in Sweden or in the Benelux island, it will have no effect because they have no such a policy at all. And I also wanted to know whether just the dairy sector will be affected, or in a broadly speaking, also other parts of the agriculture will be affected. And that slide shows you exactly that one, that taking into account the crop sector also, because they are also pretty much interlinked with the dairy sector, we will see a decrease in agriculture, in general agricultural income in the same country group as I have shown you before. So no, this will be, sorry, the last result slide, but that shows you one question. So until now I discussed that if we would take away from all member states this CIS support, what happens? This was a hypothetical scenario, but to implement, we need lots of discussions. And at least what I have data for Hungary, so I show you this one, what shows you how the dairy sector is relying on the coupled income support payment. Without coupled income support payment, until 2021, the margin would be not enough to cover their total production costs. The first year came in 2022, when we could at least theoretically think about if we could take away this CIS support. In the long term, probably the kind of evolution of support will tend to be that pressure is increasing continuously to take away this support. So probably this is the time when we could start discussing these questions also in Hungary. And the key messages of this study I listed here. So I have shown you that the low-yield dairy farmers will be most likely impacted by such a measurement. But to mitigate the problems, we will need to implement other measures like in national payment forms. The overall production decrease won't be tremendous. So there should not be a problem implementing such a measurement. And dairy farming will remain a key agricultural sector for the EU. I think today or nowadays, the European Union is the second largest dairy producers after India. So you won't lose much by such a measure, by taking this step. And I didn't went into the details, but for every new policy measurements, we need a coordinated agricultural and trade assessment at the multinational level, because lots of things can happen also in third countries and also within the European Union, and that has to be taken into account. I just mentioned one limitation of this kind of study, because CAPRI relies, as Peter has already pointed out, on FAO data, on Eurostat data, and on FADN data. FADN is good for cost analysis, but still it has some drawbacks, because it has a farm level perspective and not a sectorial perspective. That means that, for example, for Hungary, in the FADN database, the small farmers here are overrepresented, even though their weight are much less compared to the larger farms. So probably in the future, we have to take into this also into account, and probably the new FSDM will also address this problem. And actually, that was my lecture, and I know it's lunchtime now, but we are ready to discuss if any question will arise. So thank you for your attention.